Well, here we are on the eve of Tesla canceling two models or 40% of their existing lineup that you can buy today. And now things have changed again. And this time they haven't removed something, they've actually added something. And Tesla recently shook things up with the Model 3 and the Model Y. They have obviously shaken things up with the S and X, and they're doing it again. This time we're talking about the Model Y. Let's dive into the details right now. All right, so let's head over to Tesla's website and we're gonna order now because here's where we see a new variant has been added, the all-wheel drive Model Y. We've had the all-wheel drive Model Y previously, and if I remember right, it was $44,990, and that came with the new 4680 battery cells, but it was the first generation of them, did not have great range, did not have great charging performance. And here it is back, but we'll get into the batteries here in a little bit. But what we're looking at is basically the same thing as the rear-wheel drive Model Y that was recently released, the Standard Model Y. Now we also have that same vehicle in all-wheel drive configuration. It's interesting because there's a couple of things here to talk about that definitely stand out. So first and foremost, 321 miles on the rear-wheel drive drops down to 294 miles on this new all-wheel drive variant. Top speed's same, but 4.60 to 60 is actually quite impressive, meaning it literally matches the performance of the premium all-wheel drive. And that's kind of an important distinction because this car and this car, they are not the same. The battery is different in both of these, and I believe we're talking about the same exact battery in the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive now, not 4680, even though Tesla did talk about 4680s finding their way into existing models to help alleviate supply chain concerns. But I don't think that's what's happening here. There's also some other minor details that we're going to cover here shortly, but the point is we have the same 0 to 60 time as we do with the premium all-wheel drive, which is actually really impressive. On the rear-wheel drive side, 6.8 versus 5.4. So you can see why that was kind of shocking. I mean, literally 2.2 seconds. Yeah, 2.2, almost 2.25 seconds faster 0 to 60. And that is because we have all-wheel drive. Now, of course, all-wheel drive, that alleviates a lot of the concerns of people in colder climates with snow. That seems to be what Tesla is trying to address here. So let's go down here a little bit more. By the way, full self-driving, this is kind of your last chance to buy it outright. And that $8,000 is good to go until February 14th. And then it's subscription only there moving forward. So even if you don't buy it and you go monthly subscription, you get 30 days free anyways, but the options are the same. So you have 3 color options and it's $1,000 for white, $1,500 for black. And the wheels come standard with these ugly, terrible wheels. And for $1,500, you can upgrade to the crossflow wheels. And of course, $1,000 for the tow hitch. There is no white interior option, but as you can see, it is the same interior as in the rear wheel drive. Warranty is also the same. And that is basically what you're looking at here. In my area, we're talking 3 to 5 weeks. So it's not a terribly long wait to get this thing. So I would assume that they're already making these and basically shipping them out. Now, wanted to go back here because there's some other details here missing. $39,990 for the rear wheel drive. And my biggest gripe with this was we're talking about $5,000 upgrade to get to the premium rear wheel drive. It is a lot more car, especially when you factor in adding even just the wheels, upgrading the wheels to be even just the base wheels that come on the rear wheel drive. We're now another $1,500 in. So now this $39,990 is really like $41,490 or $3,500 cheaper. And over on the all-wheel drive version, however, it's a $7,000 difference. Now that makes a lot more sense. So this difference is quite a bit of savings as compared to this rear-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. I think that this is just the wrong price for this. It's not enough of a value to forego going to the premium. On the all-wheel drive, however, that $7,000 is a lot of money. That is something to seriously consider. Keeping in mind though, for that $7,000, you get the same 0 to 60 performance. Now, range, you're going to lose about 30-ish miles of range here, going from the premium to the all-wheel drive, and that is legitimately due to the battery. It is legitimately a different battery in both of these cars. But there's an area that on the page that we can go to and see some more details, because there's a couple things that stand out and I want to share those now. So if we go over to the Model Y page here and we stick with the Model Y standard, or what they're now calling just the Model Y, if you go all the way to the bottom, you can kind of get the stats on this car. And it's interesting because looking at the rear wheel drive, we have a couple of things here that I want to point out. First and foremost, the most important part, 225 kilowatt max charge rate. And going over to the all-wheel drive, also 225 kilowatt max charge rate. And that is evidence to say that this is indeed the same battery. Also, when we look at 15-minute charge time, 152 miles in 15 minutes versus 160, given the full range difference between the two, that sounds about right for it to be the same exact battery. So these are definitely looking at the same battery in the car. It's just one of them has an extra motor, but there is one other thing here that I caught that was interesting. So cargo space on the rear wheel drive standard Model Y is 74 cubic feet. And this is kind of an interesting number because that's basically 2 cubic feet less. And that is probably all in the frunk because we have this cheaper frunk in the standard. But when we look at the all-wheel drive, we have almost an entire cubic foot more cargo space in this all-wheel drive, which is interesting because for the all-wheel drive, we have another motor and presumably we're taking up more space, not less. So it begs the question, where's this extra cubic foot of space coming from? Well, if it's 2 cubic feet difference in the frunk between the standard and the premium, it can't just be that it has the original frunk tub in it where it's larger. So there's got to be something else somewhere that this is coming from. So that'll be interesting to see once we get our hands on one to find out exactly where that comes from. There's also another thing that I find interesting here on the premium Model Y. Going from rear wheel drive at 4,184 pounds to all wheel drive at 4,473 pounds, we're talking about a 289 pound difference. But over here on the standard, going from 4,246 pounds on the all wheel drive to 4,061, that's only 185 pounds. So there's 100 pounds here missing somewhere. Essentially, what I'm arguing is if it was exactly the same, it's just another motor like it is in the premium, there's something off with that. So I'm not exactly sure why it's 100 pounds or a third less additional weight in the standard going from rear wheel drive to all wheel drive as it is in the premium going from rear wheel drive to all wheel drive, given the fact that both of those options include the same standard features. So the standard rear wheel drive and the standard all wheel drive should have the same equipment on board. And we definitely know on the premium side, the rear wheel drive and the all wheel drive have the same equipment on board. So something interesting of note there. There's no other hardware differences that we know of. So I'm not sure exactly what that's about, but I suspect it has something to do with whatever we're going to find out with this additional cargo space that's available in the standard option for the all-wheel drive. So this begs the question, what exactly is Tesla doing? Well, it's no secret that the standard Model Y, or the rear-wheel drive standard Model Y, when it released, it didn't have quite the pull that Tesla was hoping for. And I argued that it was price. $40,000 for that was not a good deal, especially when the step up to the premium version for $3,500 after you match the wheels. That's not a lot of money for a lot more car. Now, when it comes to the all-wheel drive, I think that's a different story altogether. If you're a consumer in the north in a winter climate and you're not used to having a rear wheel drive and won't ever consider a rear wheel drive, that marks that one off the list completely. Now you're comparing standard all-wheel drive to premium all-wheel drive. That's $7,000 difference. That's big. that might actually move the needle. At first, I was a little skeptical, but the more I thought about it, that $2,000 difference between the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive seems minimal, and that's fine, but it's really the jump from the all-wheel drive to the all-wheel drive, from the standard all-wheel drive to the premium all-wheel drive. That is a big difference, and that might actually move the needle a little bit. It's interesting because Tesla's been making all these little changes, trying to tweak and fine tune what they're doing with the Model Y lineup. Of course, the Model Y is the best selling car in the world, regardless of propulsion type. And they don't want that to change. In fact, they want that to continue to grow and expand. This is just one of those tools that they're looking at to try to make that happen. Every Model Y, the 4 that you can get minus the performance, you're talking a difference of about $9,000 from the cheapest to the most expensive. That is a nice lineup right there. Everything in the $40,000 range, all those Model Ys. And of course, my favorite, the performance. After driving it, I still think about that car, but that's for another day, another time. So let me know what you think. Is Tesla making the right move here? Is this actually going to move the needle for the standard Model Y, or is the standard Model Y just not going to cut it even with this new variant and all-wheel drive? Let me know what your thoughts are. I thank you so much for joining us today, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.